At Guitar by Masters, we understand the importance of correct practice. That's why we use our patented interactive platform, PracticePal, to give you a unique opportunity to improve your guitar playing. Are you starting to learn the guitar, trying to improve your skills, or interested in learning new pieces? Guitar by Masters lets you do all that with some of the greatest guitarists, teachers, and composers of our time. Access an expanding library of tutorials for different guitar styles and levels, which come with interactive scores, detailed views of both hands, tips and comments from teachers available in multiple languages, virtual call and response settings, and other useful features to make your practice sessions more efficient and enjoyable. Learning from the masters has never been easier. Start your free trial today at guitarbymasters.com. Welcome to Guitar by Masters podcast. I'm your host, Carmen Stindler, and in this podcast, we'll be delving into numerous guitar topics, as well as having conversations with some very prominent classical guitarists. My guest today is Stephanie Jones from Perth, Australia, an award-winning artist who's been living in Germany for the past 7 years, playing concerts extensively, recording CDs, and collaborating with musicians from all over the globe. I actually met Stephanie right here in Weimar, Germany, where the conversation is taking place, in 2015, I believe, when both of us were master students at the Franz Liszt University of Music. We also founded the Weimar Guitar Quartet back then and have been playing together ever since, so please excuse us if this conversation is a bit informal at times. It's just the dynamic we have. Welcome, Steph, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
So, let's start at the very beginning. Even though you don't come from a musical family, your interest in music came at a very early age. You played the saxophone and the violin before starting with classical guitar. What made you switch and decide to become a professional classical guitarist? And what are the things you learned playing other instruments that maybe still help you today in your approach to music?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that my mum really knew the importance and value of learning an instrument, especially at a very young age. So I started off with the piano, which is a really good instrument to get a foundation of. And then the next instrument I played was the violin. And, you know, the choices I made on what instrument I wanted to play basically was determined by how cool I thought it was. So the reason why I chose the violin was because my older brother played it. And then, of course, you know, that's what you think. So started with the violin, and then I also played the saxophone as well. And the reason why I thought that was cool was because I heard a saxophone teacher play Pink Panther, and that was just like mind-blowing to me. And then, yeah, of course, the guitar. It's just overall just a wonderful instrument to play, and is probably the coolest instrument to play. So it's just I really valued the other instruments that I got to learn. Also, I got to do a bit of the flute as well, and this was really valuable because it gave me sort of a really rich experience into different genres and playing in different sorts of ensembles. It was just, so valuable. And the guitar for me is really just an instrument that is absolutely probably one of the most versatile instruments out there, because you can do so many different styles on it. And it just has so many different tone colors and sounds, and you can play sort of melody and, accompaniment and bass and everything. You could do everything on it, which makes it, bloody difficult. But at the same time, I feel like there's just so much you can do with it. So that's probably why I stuck with it the most. But I had a really wonderful time playing these other instruments. And I think particularly the flute and the saxophone really helped me understand how to phrase melody lines, and doing phrasing in general, because it's an instrument that is a single line, and it requires you to know how to breathe with the music as well. So I think that just really helped helped how I interpret music on the guitar.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I think lots of people that only play guitar maybe as their main instrument and no other instruments, they kind of are limited with the technique. And, you know, guitar isn't a very easy instrument to play. I mean, no instrument is. They all have their own specifics. But with the guitar, yeah, the melody lines, things like that, we a lot of the times we don't think about it because we have so many other things going on. So if you're limited by the classical guitar technique, it can just not sound that well sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really important thing to play other and know other instruments as well and how they work. Okay, so what kind of repertoire are you most passionate about?
Well, it's hard to choose, right? Because we have so much good stuff out there. I think, well, I always got to mention the Johann Sebastian Bach because it's something about his music that really speaks to me. So it's not easy, but when you get your head around everything, it's very rewarding, I think. And yeah, I think also, it's hard to choose, but a lot of the listeners probably already know that I really love South American music, and especially sort of like Astor Piazzolla. Probably one of the main reasons is because, you know, Astor Piazzolla, he really brought sort of jazz music and classical music together to create this new form of tango. So it's like both of my two backgrounds and loves together that I can sort of express, and it's just has so much like passion and drama, and you know, I just I just love that stuff. So yeah, and of course, like Sérgio Assad, I've been playing a lot of his music recently. Just a lot of contemporary composers I've really enjoyed getting into that. So also like Kevin Callahan and Bogdanović and Richard Charlton's an Australian composer I really love. There's just so many. So it's I think at the moment it's sort of, I'm really getting into South American music and like contemporary sort of new pieces and new commissions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I know that collaborating with composers is very important to you, and there's many pieces our listeners can actually find on Guitar by Masters that were composed by world-renowned composers such as Sérgio Assad, Dusan Bogdanović, and Kevin Callahan. Let's listen to Stephanie's performance of Fields of Gold Chorale by Dusan Bogdanović. if you're interested in learning this piece, it is available on Guitar by Masters with commentary and coaching points by Sting-Bogdanović himself. So, let's open the next big topic, which is practicing. I've known you for many years, and I've always admired your approach to practice, which we could easily describe as less is more. Can you maybe tell me a little bit about this and how you realize that effective practice doesn't include long hours and that long hours are actually very counterproductive?
Yeah, I think maybe I wouldn't phrase it as less is more because it sort of sounds like I don't practice. Like I do practice a lot. Okay.
Of course.
But it's more quality over quantity. So you've probably heard people say this before, like, oh, I've practiced 7 hours today. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then you find out later that they've been doing exercises in front of the TV and not really concentrating on what they're doing. And that's sort of, I don't think is very effective. So my sort of philosophy on practice is really about doing lots of short, focused sessions where I'm really paying attention to what I'm doing and sort of just, scattering it throughout the day to make sure that I don't injure myself and give my head a bit of time to think about what I'm doing. So it's really, the quality is really being very attentive to the needs that I need to do with a piece and following through on that. Rather than just sort of blatantly playing for a few hours and not really doing it properly. And I think it's important for people to be very careful if they do want to practice so many hours in the day because you have a higher risk of injury. And a few years ago, I had this real big problem with my left hand. I had a lot of tension in my thumb. And working through this really helped me realize this to a much higher extent, how important it is to listen to your body and to give yourself time, especially because it's such a creative process. You need your brain to think about what's going on, really like sleep on it and stuff, and really make everything. Sometimes something just works a couple of days later and you don't know why. Sort of. Have you ever had that? Like I would be practicing many out, like a while, like many days in a row, and then it's just I just take one day off, and then suddenly the day after it just works. I'm like, excuse me, like
exactly.
Why didn't it work before? It's just it's hard to describe, but I think it's just yeah, you gotta take care of yourself. And you've got to make sure that when you do practice, you have really good goals in mind. So you would be fine like doing like 3 or 4 hours a day if it's really, really good quality, rather than tiring yourself out, potentially injuring yourself, maybe not even doing good practice if it's like 8 hours or 9 hours or whatever people say.
Yeah.
So.
And being a classical guitarist, I mean, just our nails cannot really handle 7 or 8 hours of practice, right? I mean, who has these magic nails?
Especially like Piazzolla or something. It dies after 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a problem. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I had moments during my studies when I had really lots of time and I could practice a lot, but whenever I did maybe like a 7 hour a day session, like I mean not one session of course, but like maybe 7 hours throughout the day, yeah. I just didn't want to play the next day, and I didn't because I just didn't want to. So what's the point, basically? It's
better to have consistency rather than doing something like this. It's like what I tell my students. It's like brushing your teeth. You're gonna get a much better improvement if it's something you do, even if it's just a little bit. Like some of my students, maybe they don't have time to practice a lot in the day because they have other jobs and whatnot. Yeah. As long as you have like just a set time, whatever you can handle, and you do that every day, it's much better than being like, I'm going to practice 2 hours today and then tomorrow, whatever.
And it's too overwhelming at the end, right? If you're not a professional guitarist and you want to practice 2 hours at a time, it's such an overwhelming thought that you might just not do it just because of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You gotta enjoy it as well. Yeah. You don't want to be. You should never put the clock on and be like, okay, after 1 hour I'll stop practicing. Like that's just mind-blowingly insane. You really just got to, go with the piece and see what you need to do. And also practicing is not necessarily only just on the guitar. I think I learn a lot from listening and immersing yourself in, like, even going out and watching concerts or doing ensembles or just getting involved in the musical community. Is like, it's not strictly, guitar practice, but it's something that really gets you absorbed in the world and will improve you as a musician.
For sure, yeah. I completely agree. But do you usually also plan ahead? So maybe you have some goals for the next day or the next week, what you want to achieve with your pieces, or is it more free in that way?
Yeah, well, the obvious goals would be like, I have this project that has to be done by this time. So
deadlines.
And the deadlines are getting shorter and shorter these days. Like in university, it was like, okay, I have, the end of semester, technical exam, right? And then you're sort of like a bit, but now it's like, okay, in 2 weeks I've got this thing, and like 3 weeks I've got this thing. And then, so it's, in that way, it's much easier to plan what you have to do. But what a very obvious thing that I always do when I have these things is that I make it like a table, and I list out all the pieces that I have to do, and then the days of the week that are coming up, and I make sure that I either write in, I don't write in the numbers, but like I tick them off if I've done the piece. So I really keep track of what pieces I've been doing and what might need a bit more attention or something if I've like missed them for a day or two because I don't know, I was focusing on something else. And so it's just a good way to have an overview.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Cool. And also, how long do you think optimal sessions, or maybe just for you personally, are? How long can you actually practice before resting?
So it really depends on how my hands are feeling. So when I had a lot of pain in my hand, I would only do 20-minute sessions.
Oh, okay.
So really quite short. Maybe even less if I felt anything in my hand or my arm. So, and then I would just do like a bunch of these sessions throughout the day. Because one of the worst things you can do if you do have, of course, talk to your doctor or what's best for you. But like, it's a mistake a lot of people make is that if you have an injury and you completely, absolutely stop guitar for 6 months or something, then that could be worse in the long run because you've lost all the muscles and everything that you need. So when you go back to the guitar, then it's a huge process. So it's like always good to maybe just do even just like a little bit every day, like just like, not even, you've got to listen to your body, of course, but it's dangerous to completely flat out stop, I think. So for me, these short sessions are really good. And now I extend it. It really depends what I'm working on and what the piece is and how I'm feeling. It could be like probably 30 minutes to 40 minutes. And then, I do like a bunch of these sessions throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So I don't do it like all in the morning and all in the afternoon, usually all in the evening, really. I like to practice when it's like quiet and still, sort of more atmospheric when you're playing like Piazzolla or something as well in the evening. So yeah, I think that's really important to, basically the takeaway is to listen to your body and make sure you don't injure yourself and make sure your creative brain actually gets the chance to process it, what it's trying to learn.
And make sure you pick up your guitar once a day at least and see what happens, Might be 5 minutes, might be longer. It's just to keep consistent. Your schedule.
And if you're a professional or not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a professional, maybe more than 5 minutes. I think
obviously,
you're really going to be struggling with your whatever you're doing. So.
But just keeping consistent. Basically, it's the.
Don't sit down and do 9 hours in a row and in front of the TV. It's not going to work out for you.
Yeah,
probably.
It's really counterproductive at the end, actually. Yeah, that's true. Cool. Okay, next topic. You've been very active on social media for a few years now and acquired a broad audience consisting of people from all over the globe. In your experience, what kind of advantages and disadvantages does social media exposure bring to classical musicians nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, so like social media is, especially like YouTube, has been an amazing way for me to get the exposure that I needed for the career that I have now. It's and also just like being able to get concerts and being able to fill the concerts. I mean, if you're going to go to a concert, you want to listen to what the person sounds like. So you might Google them or whatever. So it really helps with the attendance as well. It's just, social media has been really great. I'm very thankful that I'm able to sort of share my music all over the world and get so much lovely feedback. So yeah, it's really great tool. Really great tool. It does bring a lot of pressure. I'm sure everyone's sort of heard about these things. It's just because you're sort of exposing yourself so much, and in a way it's sort of, you're putting yourself out there, and it's can feel like it's a critical medium, you know. I really hope that when I put something out there, people appreciate it and they enjoy it, and also, you know, that they respect it. But you're always just worried that you've done something wrong, or you should have played it like this, or maybe someone doesn't like it, or whatever the reason is. It's just you can get a lot of sort of a bit of anxiety around that. And it's just something I think just comes with being a musician as well. I think it's just I think it makes you a better musician, right? Like it's good to an extent to be worried about sort of things, but there is that side of sort of social media can feel quite judgmental on many different aspects, and I just put stuff out there and hope you like it. Sort of.
And also, I think also the negative feedback, constructive negative feedback, it can be actually a really good thing, because you can be like, oh, actually, maybe I should, I don't know, record myself with a bit of better equipment, or maybe I should think about researching the background of these pieces a bit more, so maybe I understand them better. You know, there's always advantages of that as well. But obviously, I mean, there's also always, you know, negative feedback that is not constructive, which, you know, just kind of has to be ignored. But yeah. But yeah, for sure, it has mostly advantages because of the whole exposure and building a career and just basically reaching global audience, which wasn't possible 30 years ago, you know?
I know.
It wasn't, very different world.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so definitely more advantages than disadvantages.
You just, definitely. Sure. Oh, of course. Yeah, I wouldn't be here without it, you know.
Cool. Okay, so let's continue with some more music. The next piece we'll be hearing is Tupi Guarani Tales by the legendary Sérgio Assad. This piece is a musical narrative of the creation myths among indigenous Guarani people in South America. You can explore this beautiful music and learn how to approach its intricacies with tips and comments from both Sérgio and Stephanie. let's continue with something a bit more personal. Although being a classical musician is a really fulfilling and, in a way, very privileged career choice, we all know that it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's lots of sacrifices, insecurity, rejection involved, and I love how more and more musicians are opening up about the other side of this profession. Anything you would like to share on that matter, maybe in the light of the global pandemic or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, well, the pandemic has not been great, in general. It's been hard on everyone. But I think the thing that affected me the most was that I wasn't able to get back to Australia and see family and friends for like 3 years. So it was really, really a long time. So that combined with, losing all my concerts suddenly, it's just sort of like, not great.
You had this huge US tour planned for 2020, right? In spring.
Yeah, I had this huge solo tour planned. It took ages to apply for the visa and put everything together and sort that all out. And then just suddenly, snap, it's gone.
The visa was just approved, and
the visa was just approved. And it's it's not guaranteed when these things. So it's a huge shame that And then I had this other US tour with International Guitar Night that was postponed and then postponed again. So hopefully next year should be all right again. But
lots of insecurity, basically.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has really exposed a lot of things in terms of for musicians it's difficult. Nothing's really guaranteed, and things can go away very quickly. And you just have to be aware of that. But on the flip side, the amount of support that I've seen has been incredible. Like all of my fans online. I really appreciate that, particularly the people who support me on Patreon. They gave me the financial freedom to be able to keep sharing music, and really inspired me to keep doing projects and all sorts of things. And so, yeah, I'm very thankful to them all, definitely. Yeah, but it's been a difficult few years for everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, but I also think that actually this time, the pandemic time, you actually spent quite productively doing lots of recordings and, as you said, starting Patreon, but also just your YouTube recordings, all sorts of things, also online concerts. So I think it was, you kind of
did a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I probably did too much. I don't know. Also, sometimes I felt like a little overwhelmed, but in a good way. But yeah, it was. It's been a busy few years. It's definitely it's opened up a lot of avenues creatively on what you can share online, and interacting with people and just collaborating with people. And over the last few years I did all this stuff with Guitar by Masters, and that was an awesome way to share my music and promote a learning platform. And it's just I'm very fortunate, I think, and I'm very thankful for my position. I think it hasn't been necessarily easy for everybody, but luckily through these avenues I've managed to get through okay. So.
And the US tour is postponed too?
2023, so next year.
Okay, yes, stay tuned, all the US fans.
Yes, I have the International Guitar Night one January to March. And then I'm organizing, September, October, my solo tour.
Okay.
Pending
Perfect.
visas to be approved, of course. US visa department, please let me in.
Takes about half a year or so, right?
It can take ages, and it's costs a lot of money as well. It's a huge commitment, and then you got to have someone to invite you as well. It's it's a bit of a process, definitely. But
yeah, I remember being so nervous. I got it approved 1 week before I was traveling. Of course, I had to buy all the tickets way in advance. Yeah. But I was so nervous if I'm going to get it on time or not. And that's just the thing you have to kind of take into account.
Yeah, it was crazy with the year the pandemic started and I was supposed to do this tour. I was probably a few days away from going to book my flights. And I was lucky that I didn't book my flights. Oh my goodness.
That's
it was
true.
Really on the border there, but...
Okay.
Oh well.
Went well at the end.
Went well. I mean, at the very beginning of the pandemic, it was sort of like before you start getting into these projects, because you just like everything just stopped. It's like, what do I do with my time? Like, I have so much space. Like, got to fill it with something other than like playing Animal Crossing or something. You know, that came out at the perfect moment. But yeah, so it really, I think, it provided a lot of avenues creatively to do more stuff online. Which I'm thankful about, definitely. But it's been a difficult road for everyone, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But that's great to hear that you managed to find other avenues, and yeah, we're doing that. Okay, the last question. In a world that is ever digitizing, online learning has slowly becoming a norm. What do you like or also dislike the most about online learning platforms?
Yeah, it's really fantastic. I mean, just the idea that you can learn how to play guitar, you know, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what access you have, as long as you have internet, of course. And you can learn from big names in the guitar world. I think it's just a incredible opportunity, and it's really cool with Guitar by Masters that you can also. I find it so interesting that you can sort of really read the music along with your playing and really see what these performers are doing with their hands. It's just all of this sort of coordination between all of these different mediums is so beneficial, and just great people to work with. Yeah, so I just think it's really fantastic.
And you've been also working one-on-one with some students via Patreon, right?
Yeah, I do. On online teaching on Patreon, that's really good. That's been going great. Yeah, it was also just really good during the pandemic to talk with other people about music and share the music in this way and being able to teach more, because it's something. I started Patreon in the pandemic period because I lost all my concerts, and I thought it would be a good way to go ahead. So that's been a really great thing that's come out of it, at least. So that's worked really well, and yeah.
Cool. Okay, to finish off, here is a few questions by the Guitar by Masters podcast listeners. We always post a question box on our Instagram and Facebook stories a few days ahead of recording this podcast, so stay tuned and your question just might get asked in our next episode. So, the first question we got was, what would your advice be to young aspiring classical guitarists who want to establish themselves on the international concert scene?
Yeah, I think it's important to be patient. It's a process, so it's not really going to happen overnight. And it's be patient. Don't be too hard on yourself. Really put yourself out there. So get involved in guitar communities, go to festivals. You don't necessarily have to play competitions, but really just get to know people and get into the world, I think is really valuable. And also, what's really important these days is to have an online presence. It's undeniable. You have to have it. And so it's really good to start getting used to recording and maybe put some videos up if you're happy with them. And that's just a really great way of, say, if you're going to get into sort of universities and things, so that professors can see how you play. And yeah, so be kind to yourself. Play what you enjoy. Make sure you play for yourself. I think a lot of the time you sort of start to play for other people maybe, or you think you have to do something because someone else is doing or whatever. So make sure to play for yourself. Be true to yourself. That sounds really corny.
No, but it's completely
true. But it's true. It really is true.
On the long run, you won't be able to, play things that people just expect from you because that's just so sad.
Yeah, you don't want to waste your time doing that, and you're not going to enjoy it, and it's sort of you gotta be inspired.
Yeah.
And get involved and put yourself out there. That's really all you can do, and what will work.
Mm-hmm. And regarding recording yourself, we can also maybe emphasize that you don't need fancy recording equipment for that.
No, you could, phone cameras these days are amazing.
We're literally using
one now.
iPhone right now. So 4K.
Yeah, even the microphones on them are pretty good. I mean, you can always just get a Zoom microphone or something as well if you want to vamp it up. There's very good options out there that you don't have to spend a lot of money on. It's really just make sure you have sort of nice lighting so that, you know, you're not in shadows. And the most important thing is sound, and make sure, you know, you're not sitting out in the wind or something, you know, it's like going on, it's not, you can't hear the music, that doesn't really work. So definitely.
Yeah, really good advice for young aspiring classical guitarists. Thank you. And the second one, why do you think women are still less represented in the classical guitar world, and what kind of initiatives you think could support better representation of women?
I don't know why they're not represented well. Like, honestly, it makes no sense that there's not there's so many good women guitarists out there to choose from, and it's so important to get more people to have this representation, right? Because for the younger generations, I mean, you want someone to look up to, you know, of course. So the answer to your first question is I don't know, but it is changing. There are more festivals that are taking note of this, and I really appreciate that. That's really, really fantastic when they do that. But yeah, and in terms of the second question, yeah, I mean, for me, what I'm doing at the moment is that my next big project is releasing a CD featuring women composers. So I've commissioned a bunch of different works from Clarice Assad, so the daughter of Sérgio Assad, and there's a composer in Australia called Sally Greenaway. She's fantastic, so I got a piece coming from her. And I'm working with, there's a wonderful jazz guitarist in Italy, which I toured with, Eleonora Stringo. So she's interested in writing some stuff. And yeah, it's just, I'm really excited about this. It's really a sort of a passion project. So if there's any composers out there if you're a woman, you're a composer out there, really write me an email, because I'll be interested in what you've got, you know? So
that's a really cool project.
Yeah, I think doing things like this is, like, it's just like a few years ago. I think for our quartet CD, we did Clara Schumann.
Mm-hmm.
And from this, I realized, like, so many of my CDs I only had one woman composer or something. I'm like, why? Like, I don't know how this happened, you know? Like, there's so much great stuff out there. So it's really... Yeah, I feel really excited about doing that.
And regarding Clara Schumann, actually, I just watched a documentary recently about her life, and she was so much more famous than her husband, Robert Schumann, at the time when, you know, they were living in, and now it's like the opposite. Why is that? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
she was amazing. She was such an amazing concert player. She was composing a lot. Obviously, her husband composed more because she had to take care of 6 children and stuff.
She had like 1,000 kids
exactly.
at the same time, and she was running a concert series, and like... She was, yeah.
But, you know, unfair, you know?
Yeah.
Why did she have to take care of all 6 kids all the time? He was their dad, you know? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
And Olga Amelkina Vera, we also included in
we did a bunch of pieces from her. And we were just on her new album that came out a few months ago. So,
very recently.
That was a really cool project to do. She's got some great pieces out there.
Yeah.
You might have heard of our Nebulae. So that's got to be one of my favorite quartet pieces now.
Are we recording some more of her music for like some videos?
I'm sure. See. Yeah,
probably,
let's
right?
Do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Cool. Okay, you heard it here. Okay. And what I also wanted to say is maybe, you know, talking about there's not so many female guitar players in festivals, and, you know, I feel that more and more young guitarists are females. For example, here in Weimar, in the classical guitar department here at the university, there's actually more women than men studying guitar, which is really cool. Also in Slovenia, where I come from, there's more girls learning guitar in music schools than boys, you know, at the end. So I really hope this trend will kind of get better, or maybe even go into the other direction. Maybe, we don't know, maybe in 20 years, you know.
It just shows that how important it is to have women in festivals, because I mean, there's so many of us, you know, learning in at university, and you want to be able to see that you can do that too.
Exactly.
Basically, and I felt like when I was growing up, maybe you felt the same way. There were a few people out there which I'm really thankful for, like Sharon Isbin and Karen Sharp, and there's just so many. But it's just like, compared to the amount of males that were out there, men, that was just, you know, a lot more. So I just sort of felt like I was always like, I'm gonna be one of the like the best women guitarists in the world, like, you know,
Of course, yeah.
when I was like a little kid. And, I mean, there were so many amazing people out there. They just needed more exposure, you know? So
Yeah,
it's
for
just
sure.
like, yeah, you need that.
Our quartet is also 3 women, 1 man.
And Jakub.
And Jakob.
We let him be in
He's
it,
in,
you know.
he's in good company though, so it's fine.
Yeah,
Whatever.
he's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I also wanted to just mention a few years back for my master thesis, I was actually researching this, and I did interviews with some of the prominent female guitarists that are now maybe in their 40s, 50s, and they all kind of told me that when they were younger, it was much more difficult, and now it's getting kind of easier and easier for them. And now, for example, if women apply for jobs at universities, they're preferred. That's in every kind of Ausschreibung. I'm not sure if they do that for reals at the end, you know, but it should be, actually, they should have some kind of a...
Well, they say that if there's a woman and a man and they're both equally qualified in every aspect, then they tend to... This is not always the case, of course, but I saw an ad recently that then they would choose the woman. So, yes, I know this is a very controversial topic, but, you know, it's something that you have to try to think of yourself. If you're a young girl and all you see are professors that are men all the time, everywhere, in every place, you just sort of think, well, then I can't do that either, right? And so it's just important to sort of bridge this balance. And it's not like it's unfair or anything. I think we need that. So it's not. I think it's a really valuable thing to do.
Yeah, and I think it is going in the right direction, and we kind of hope it's going to continue to go in the right direction. That's really important. Yeah, we all should kind of strive for that, and yeah, I agree. Okay, the last question from our listeners. What do you like to do in your free time? No guitar now. Oh, I mean, maybe you also play guitar in your free time.
Well, I have this really cute little fluffy white Havanese dog, and I absolutely adore her.
Such a cute dog.
So we spend a lot of time together. We go for walks and whatnot. So she's always listening to when I practice, sort of nudging me to play with her instead sometimes, you know.
We'll insert some photos of Toffi here, so you can all be in awe.
You should check out the video, because this is a very important part of the podcast where you need to see.
Yes, on YouTube there's videos of Toffi right now.
Yeah, so I think I love going on hikes and running as well, and just enjoying, just relaxing, enjoying media as well, just watching something on online, or what I tried to pick up in the pandemic was watercolor painting, but I found out I'm not very good at it. As much as I try. I have so much admiration for visual artists. Like I watched these videos of them painting, and it's remarkable. And so I was like, I wish I could do that too. And it's like, yeah, it turns out you need a lot of years and hours of practice, just like playing an instrument, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have a lot of admiration. I love looking at art and everything as well. Definitely.
So getting inspired in your free time as well.
Yeah, getting inspired, just relaxing. I enjoy cooking as well. Nothing I'm not like some Michelin star chef or anything, but I find it very relaxing. Cooking and baking. So, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Anything else you would like to add?
No, I think we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. We saw Toffi as well.
Yeah. Just another note. Toffi is very cute, and you should probably look at the pictures of her, because
yes, and dogs are
the
amazing.
light of my life. Yeah.
We love dogs. It's just how it is. I mean, they're amazing. I will just put some extra photos of some other cute dogs, and then we can finish off.
Enough.
I think. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Steph. I'm really happy we could meet in person for this interview, and I really enjoyed it, as well as I'm sure our listeners have. And now a huge thank you to you, our listeners. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you join me in the next one. You can find a wide variety of performance videos as well as interactive tutorials by Stephanie on guitarbymasters.com, as well as hundreds of other videos and tutorials that will help you bring your guitar playing to the next level. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast as well as our YouTube channel, and if you want even more exclusive content, please join our newsletter. I hope you have a lovely week and join us in our next episode.